Hello, people. I have finished a book, Defining the Wind. The guy tried to make the cover like a dictionary definition, but this does have a subtitle, and it is The Beaufort Scale and How a 19th Century Admiral Turned Science into Poetry. It took me long enough to finish this book. It took me like 2 weeks to finish that book. It's not very long. I got, maybe 1/3 of the way into the book, and it seemed like he was trying to discredit Beaufort, because many people had made wind scales before Beaufort. There was a guy named Smeaton, and there was a guy named Dalrymple that made wind scales. And I can't remember which one, but one of them made it for land, one of them made it for the ocean. I think one of them made it for windmills, like a scale of whether you could even run the windmill. I learned a little bit about windmills in this book too. I guess I didn't realize that windmills also have sails on them, and you can take the sail off and then it won't spin so fast. Nothing like coffee after work. I love it. But it ended up being a really good book. He was not trying to discredit Beaufort. Quite the opposite. He thought Beaufort's little descriptions after his numbers were poetry, and really it is poetry. And everybody can learn something from this book, because instead of looking at our phones and seeing what the weather's going to be like, we should just be looking around and seeing exactly what the wind is doing. I'm looking out this very dirty window on my garage right now, and I'm looking at the tree branches, and this is probably a Beaufort number 3, because it's not only moving the leaves, but it's moving branches also. Get into my notes here. I have 1 page of notes, not very many notes at all. 248 pages. This was published in 2004. This is a first edition. I got this at King Book for $7. The guy's name is Scott Hewler. That's the author. And on the blurb on the back, it says that he is on NPR all the time. And I used to listen to NPR all the time, but I just don't screw around with my radio anymore. If I do, it's to play CDs. So I haven't listened to NPR for a while, but the name Scott Hewler does not ring a bell. My next note is Beaufort's Logbook. 3rd paragraph, page 70. Beaufort kept a logbook for everything. Even when he got old and began to die, he kept a logbook of his failing bodily functions. He was a little bit weird like that. My neighbor I don't think my neighbor keeps a logbook, but he writes shit on his calendar every day. I have an extremely old neighbor. I think the guy's in his 90s. I'm in Michigan. This is my neighbor in Michigan, Herschel. I have a video somewhere on my channel with Herschel. Herschel can tell you what temperature it was last year on a given day. He can tell you how many cucumbers he got last year versus the year before. It's kind of cool. I don't know if you can just start in the middle of your life keeping a logbook like that, but Beaufort did, man. Beaufort, he wrote down everything. Beaufort could actually draw really well too, and he, the Royal Navy sent him on charting expeditions. Beaufort, just drew coastlines and took soundings along all these coastlines. He did all kinds of shit. The guy ended up in a firefight one time, and he was shot in the groin, and that kind of ended his active career. After that, he worked on shore, and he ended up being this guy that just knew everybody. He took care of some of the assignments when the Beagle sailed. And of course, we all know who was on the Beagle. It was Charles Darwin. Beaufort didn't know Darwin, but he knew Darwin's father or Darwin's grandfather, something like that. But Beaufort knew everybody. Page 70, third paragraph. Sometime on the 12th or 13th of January 1806, the passage comes after the entry for the 12th and before the next. Beaufort, in a moment that has become almost mythic in meteorological circles, wrote the following words: "Hereafter I shall estimate the force of the wind according to the following scale, as nothing can convey a more certain idea of wind and weather than the old expressions of moderate and cloudy, etc., etc." He then made a list. 0 is calm. 1 is faint air, just not calm. 2 is light airs. 3 is light breeze. 4, gentle breeze. 5, moderate breeze. 6, fresh breeze. 7, gentle steady gale. 8, moderate gale. 9, brisk gale. 10, fresh gale. 11, hard gale. 12, hard gale with heavy gusts. 13, storm. And that's where it all started. He ends up making another scale where he gives little descriptions. 0 was smoke rises vertically. Many, many scales have been made before and since. Beaufort's own scale seems to have changed throughout the years. Somebody added something about the wind affecting steering an automobile. Obviously, in Beaufort's day, there was no automobiles. The author of the book made his own scale, 0 through 13, and his descriptive words were all regarding how easy or how hard it is to light a cigarette. And he made that one for me. I know exactly what he means. Halfway, 1/3, I wasn't crazy about the book. The author, Mr. Hewler, tries to make jokes about stuff. And you know what, there was a couple of times where I did chuckle. But I don't read history for humor. I enjoy history just for the plain learning things. And if I want to read humor, I read Sedaris, I read Waters, John Waters, and I read Bill Bryson. Bill Bryson's kind of funny. In between there, I've got written Beaufort moments. And now that I've read the book, I have Beaufort moments where, I'm just looking around, and I haven't, I'll probably never carry a logbook with me, but you can even just think about what you would write in a logbook. That's a Beaufort moment. You can't have a Beaufort moment on the computer. You can't have a Beaufort moment sitting in the house watching TV. You have to be outside to have a Beaufort moment. That's the only way to do it. Smeaton and Dalrymple, we already talked about that, and we talked about him being shot in the groin. It ended up being a really good book. I'm glad that I read it. I am into another book. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but me and my wife went to a book sale out in Pinckney, Michigan, and you could buy a bag for $10 and just cram as many books in there as you could. So we ended up getting 27 books. We bought 2 bags for $20. Anytime you get a book for under $1, you're doing really good. Thanks for watching.